Welcome to all. Professional development is becoming an important area in all educational institutions. Today, let us discuss on professional development of teachers, aspiration, qualities, professional preparation. Before directly entering into the meaning of the term professional development, let us see what National Education Policy states about the professional standards for teachers. The National Education Policy NEP 2020 has put the teacher at the center of the fundamental reforms in the educational system. The new education policy aims to re-establish teachers at all levels as the most respected and essential members of our society. Why is it such place was given for teachers? It is nothing else. It is because of the truly shaping of the next generation of citizens. That's the duty of teachers, and who contribute to the advancement of both the economy and the society. The policy aims to build systems that must do everything to empower teachers and help them do their jobs as effectively as possible. As per the National Education Policy 2020, teacher preparation is an activity that requires multidisciplinary perspectives and knowledge, the formation of dispositions and values, and the development of practice under the best mentors. It requires teachers to be grounded in Indian values, languages, knowledge, ethos, and traditions, while also being well versed in the latest advances in education and pedagogy. So we can see a vast area where the teachers need the professional training. Before entering into what type of professional development needed for teachers, from the term professional development itself, we can see the two concepts, that is profession and development. Let us go to the concept of profession. What do you mean by a profession? When we look at the derivation of the word profession, it is derived from the Latin word profitio, which means to profess. The Oxford English Dictionary defines profession as a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and a formal qualification. So what is important here is that we can see that it is paid occupation, then qualification is needed and training also needed. So these three aspects are important in any profession. Let us come to the term professional development. Professional development means the process of improving the capabilities and skills of teachers through innovative training programs inside and outside the educational institution. We know that different kinds of training programs are undergoing within the institution as well as outside the institution. According to the Thesaurus of the Educational Resources Information Center (ERIC) database, professional development refers to activities to enhance professional career growth. Let us look at the other definition put forward by Fullman. Fullman expands the definition of professional development by including the sum total of formal and informal learning experiences throughout one's career from pre-service teacher education to retirement. So we know that as teachers they are trained. So from any bachelor degree they come directly to the teacher education program. That time we may classify them as pre-service teacher education. After getting a job, they may be appointed in any institution as novice teachers. As novice teachers, they need more professional development programs. How can we consider teaching as a profession? We know that there are a lot of professions in society. How do teaching can be treated as a profession? Each profession has its own culture derived from the role of its practitioners and the expectations that society has with respect to the professional service. There are different factors that influence the nature of profession. Here we are emphasizing on teaching profession. Let us see what are the factors that influence the nature of profession. There are 5 factors. Number 1, payment. Number 2, knowledge and skills. Number 3, responsibility. Number 4, recognition. And number 5, professional ideal of service. Let us have a discussion on these factors. When we look at these 5 factors, we may be thinking how these factors are related to teaching. We know that teaching profession is a noble profession, and we can see that how NEP 2020 considered teaching as a noble profession which is having recognized globally. For the profession of teaching, teachers are paid for what they do. Next, we can see that some kind of knowledge and skills are required. For what purpose? That this knowledge and skills are required to mold the personality of the learners. Hence, the knowledge and skill required for teaching profession differ from those required for the practice of other professions. More than that, this teaching profession is a component of both theoretical and practical knowledge. So we need these 2 aspects, components together. Next, we can see teaching is a recognizable occupation in society. A teacher is accountable for her or his work and also to whom he or she is dealing with. So always we can see that there is commitment on the part of the teacher towards the job. There is accountability on the part of the teacher towards the job. While considering the connection between teaching as a profession and education, one can see that professional teaching qualifications fall under 3 headings, namely pedagogy, content and education. So the components of pedagogical content knowledge, we may state that it is knowledge of task, knowledge of instructional methods, knowledge of students' prior knowledge. So here, what does this pedagogy means? Pedagogy includes the science and art of teaching and the methodology of teaching. Whereas what is included in the content, for every profession, there is a specialized area and the content is to be covered by the teachers. Hence, the teacher need mastery over the subject. They need mastery over the content areas, and a required qualification is needed. For that, some kind of educational training is needed. Next, about recognition. How the factor recognition is related to education. When we look at the factor of recognition, the community recognizes the value of teaching. and the teacher is respected everywhere in society. And the next factor, that is professional ideal of service. In professional ideal of service, a person acts as a main person rather than as an agent. So here the teacher is an important factor which makes changes not only on the students but in the society also. Let us go through the historical concept of professionalism. Historically, the concept of professionalism was associated with the quality of practice and the public status of the job. It was referred to the level of autonomy and regulations within the occupation to provide services to society. It requires specialized training, knowledge, qualification and skills. However, teaching as a profession goes beyond meeting these formal characteristics or criteria. It also includes emotions that are at the heart of teaching. The combination of the formal criteria and informal requirements, along with the changing student learning needs, has led to the evolution of the teaching profession and the role of a teacher. All of us are aware about the document on National Professional Standards for Teachers, NPST. The National Professional Standards for Teachers shall be public statement of what constitute teaching quality and what is required to improve the educational outcomes of statements in India. What are these statements? These standards, there are specified standards that is included in NPST document. These standards shall be a set of guiding statements that define the expectation of the role of a teacher at different levels of expertise at different stages of a career. The standards, it also define what effective teaching looks like and what competencies are required as a teacher in 21st century schools at each stage of teaching career. So when we say about the stages of a career, we can see that in NPST document they specify different teacher career pathways. Let us have a discussion on the teacher career pathway. The first one, that is aspirant. Who is an aspirant? That is an individual who aspires to become a teacher, and he or she has to undergo pre-service teacher training program. Second one, the newly qualified teacher, that is the career stage 1. Otherwise, we may call them as novice teacher, the teacher registration to enter the career at career stage 1. Next, the proficient teacher, that is the career stage 2. There, the competency mapping and evaluation to progress to career stage 2. Then comes the advanced teacher, that is at the career stage 3, the competency mapping and evaluation to progress to career stage 3. Then comes the lead teacher, that is the career stage 4. The competency mapping and evaluation to progress to career stage 4. These are the various teacher career pathways mentioned in NPST document. How can we classify the professional development of teachers? We can classify it into 3 ways. Number 1, initial teacher training or initial teacher education programs. That means a pre-service course before entering the classroom as a fully responsible teacher. Number 2, induction. The process of providing training and support during the first few years of teaching or the first year in a particular school. And number 3, that is teacher development or continuing professional development. As an in-service teacher, they need training in new areas that is coming up. We know that now the school is concentrating upon developing the 21st century skills. So whether it is a school or a higher education, the relevance upon the 21st century skills is coming up. So such type of teacher development programs is needed for teachers. And let us have a discussion on the initial professional preparation of teachers. What does we mean by professional preparation? Professional preparation means preparing teachers to acquire the needed competencies and skills to achieve the demands of the various learners or the teaching learning process. Pre-service teacher education as a process, we can say that it emphasizes upon the transformation of teacher into a competent and committed professional practitioner. Pre-service teacher education is a learning process that provides experiences for development towards good teaching, through which a student teacher secures guided experiences as a preparation for all the aspects of his or her professional career. What are the objectives of initial professional preparation of teachers? When we think of the objectives, the first objective is to acquire knowledge and understanding of the instructional planning, preparation, transaction and evaluation, to apply the knowledge and understanding to the new and unfamiliar teaching situations. Thirdly, to develop proper interest, attitudes and values relating to teaching profession and procedures. Next, to develop the abilities for effective classroom management. We know that this classroom management is an important or difficult task for most of the teachers. So how such type of training can be given? What models or approaches can be adopted to implement in the exact classroom situation in order to create a disciplined classroom environment? Next objective, to acquaint with different approaches of teaching and communication techniques. How can we divide the pre-service teacher education curriculum? There we can divide it into 3 blocks, that is foundational knowledge and skills, second content and knowledge of pedagogy, and third practice teaching. What does this foundational knowledge and skills means? For every teacher who are specialized in any area of subject, these foundational knowledge and skills are necessary. So there are for example, the principles of teaching. It is subjected to all disciplines. Where a teacher is going to classroom, what type of principles should be adopted? Next, the content and knowledge of pedagogy. How to teach? What methodology has to be adopted in classroom? And what subject mastery is needed for each subject that comes under the content and knowledge of pedagogy. And then comes practice teaching. What does this practice teaching include? That is giving training to the teachers that the real classroom experiences, how they can confront the real classroom, that is coming under the practice teaching. When we look at the initial professional preparation of teachers, normally there are major issues. Let us have a discussion on the major issues. That the first issue, the curriculum taught at pre-service teacher education level is not appropriate for development of right attitudes and skills among student teachers. Generally, there is a gap between the attitudes and skills or the competencies and skills what is needed in schools is different in the teacher preparation curriculum. Secondly, the traditional methods of teaching. So, how far the new methods are adopted in the school situation, they are not getting included in the curriculum of the teacher education program. Next, about the inclusive settings. Each classroom has become inclusive. Teachers are facing difficulty to handle children in the exact inclusive classroom. What type of inclusive teaching methods they can adopt? How they can assess all learners? What type of presentations, multiple presentations that students can adopt in classroom? And the next, lack of coordination between pre-service teacher training institutions and schools. So there is a vast difference. When the teacher trainees goes to the school situation, they face a different atmosphere which they may coming back, they are telling that the curriculum is different. What we needed in the real classroom situation is different, and the curriculum in the teacher education program is finally different. So here comes the necessity for the novice teachers who enter into the profession, that in-service teacher education programs. In-service teacher education, it refers to a recurrent, organized and need-based continuing education of teachers already on the job to update and enrich their professional competencies, strengthen their commitment and enhance their professional performance in the classroom as well as in the school and community. What are the objectives of in-service teacher education programs? When we look at the objectives, we can state that the first objective is to make teachers aware of the new developments in the disciplines and the subject they teach. Secondly, to help teachers know their problems and solve them by using the resources and wisdom. Thirdly, to enable the teachers meet the requirements of changing educational and social context and concerns. Fourthly, to sensitize teachers with the educational problems of the neglected sectors. Next objective, to increase the level of motivation of teachers, develop self-confidence, promote the spirit of inquiry and help them to be committed and reflective teachers. Next, to provide a support system to teachers in the areas of their deficiency. Next, to provide a support system to teachers in the development of new skills in the areas of emerging trends. Next, to upgrade the qualification of teachers who are either underqualified or unqualified. There are more objectives like to foster the desire for lifelong learning and to empower teachers learning to learn and learning to be. Next, to train teachers for contemporary thematic issues like MLL, then joyful learning, meeting educational needs of the deprived, disadvantaged, disabled children, use of mass media in education, community participation in education, etc. Next one, eliminating deficiencies in teachers' preparation, fulfill the gaps of pre-service education, remove its inadequacies and make it more realistic. So we can see these are the various objectives of initial teacher preparation programs. And when we look at the present situation, what is happening in the scenario is that we can see that there is a statutory body to regulate all teacher education programs, that is the National Council for Teacher Education. So different statutory bodies are there. So here these statutory bodies has put a specified curriculum which are followed by the different educational institutions, but we can see that in spirit whether this curriculum is adopted in all educational institutions or not. Another one we can see is that whatever in-service teacher education program is given in the institutions, whether it is depending upon the need-based, whether any need survey is conducted, that question we have to ask. Then we can see that the funding system, for some cases, if it is a government sponsored programs, they are getting funds from the government. What about the other sectors, the private sectors? They have to spend on their own. So there is a gap between the funding system also. And the next one we can see is that whatever training is given, whether there is a monitoring or supervision of that type of aspects in the real classroom setup. So these are some of the issues that we have discussed. Hope that you might have understood that how far this professional development or professional preparation of teachers is very much important in today's setup. So in today's discussion we have covered to identify the meaning, profession, as well as how to term teaching as a profession, classify the various factors that leads to the nature of a profession. Next, the difference between profession and professionalism, the difference between the professional preparation of teachers and the professional development of teachers. Then we have discussed about the professional standards that were specified in National Professional Standards for Teachers. That document has come out with some professional standards. And lastly, we have discussed with the objectives of in-service teacher education programs and the problems what they are facing. Hope that you might have understood all these aspects in a very appropriate manner. Thank you.